to get to know the SMEs, like the subject matter experts in your company. Get to know them because they are a wealth of knowledge and they're going to know things and provide perspective that you don't necessarily have. But you don't have to do that in a specific way, right? You don't have to set a meeting with them or you don't have to go to lunch. Like I'm not a go to lunch kind of girl. That's just not what doesn't work for me. But I can do it in my own way, which is like, let me pop by your office and bring you a coffee or bring you a little snack and like let's chat it up for a moment or two because that's what works for me. And then take it from there, right?
Hey queens, yeah you know who you are. God, come on, go ahead and put that crown on your head. Now tilt a little to the left, now a little to the right. Perfect. Now let's get to work, cause we know you got big goals and you got big dreams and not afraid to let them know. Why? Cause you step into your purpose, you speak out on your faith, and you shift up in your journey, cause you a boss. Welcome to the podcast Drop the Expiring Act with your host Veli of QueenBayGoals.com, reminding you that you are a queen before anything else. It's your life and your goals. Make it royal. All right, y'all. Go ahead and work that crown. Welcome, Queen Bays, to another episode of the Drop the Aspiring Act podcast. Today we are talking to Whitnee Hawthorne, the savvy working mom. But hold up, because I got to go through my list because she has a list, you guys. So she is a professional speaker, author, certified coach, Fortune 500 executive, productivity expert, entrepreneur, self-care guru, passionate mom and wife. And I don't know why she didn't add it to the list because she also has a podcast. So honey, give us a little bit of background about yourself and then tell us about the savvy working mom.
Yes. Hey, thank you so much for having me on the show. You listed all the things, and I do need to include the podcast because I launched that earlier this year. But yeah, I'm Whitney. I was originally born in Texas, but I've lived all over since. So I just say that home is where my mom is, and she happens to be in Delaware at this point. So home is Delaware, even though I maybe spent 7 days of my entire life there. I just moved.
That's funny.
Yeah, I launched the Savvy Working Mom out of a need that I had found for myself and for other mothers that I was around. I have two kids, a 2.5-year-old and a now 14-week-old.
Oh,
And I know,
baby.
baby. I know you forget how little and smushy they are too, because like our 2.5-year-old is just a brute. They call him Hurricane Hendrix. His name is Hendrix.
Oh my gosh, I have a 2-year. Well, he's almost 2. He'll be 2 in October, so I can imagine.
Awesome. Yeah. And they're the best. Like they're awesome, but then you just forget toddlers, how the difference between toddlers and babies. Anyway, when I had my first son, Hendrix, when I had him, I realized that there was not enough resources out there for working mothers. I think over the last 2 to 3 years, like that is starting to change and I'm so excited about it. But when I first had him, I was trying to find help, right? About how do I do this thing? Like, how do I manage my life? How do I be a mom, but also be a career woman, but also just be like the passionate Whitney person that I am? And
Right.
I couldn't find it. What I could find was a lot of information on how to parent. And of course, you know, career information has always been out there, but I really didn't find anything that mixed the two or addressed just that I am a mother, but also a person. When I became a mother, I didn't change who I was. I grew, right? And became more.
Exactly.
And I didn't find anything that addressed that past life, that past part of me that was still actually a present part of me, if that makes sense. So I started a blog, The Savvy Working Mom. And the blog was really just around providing information to other mothers about self-care and time management and what it means, this kind of working mom life. And as I talked to more women, I realized that this was actually a need that they had as well. And then I realized that we all have our stories and we all have our own ways to make it work. Like what works for me doesn't necessarily work for the next mom, but what works for her might work for somebody else, you know, and what works for me might work for somebody else. And so that's how I launched the podcast. I launched a podcast, A Savvy Working Mom, same name, because I was like, it's so important for me to share the stories of other women and other mothers because I feel like there's just not enough platforms for us to do that. It was almost like when I was working, when I first had my son, you know, I'd be thankfully the company that I work for, we had a designated area for pumping. So I'd be in there pumping and another mom would come in and we'd start talking and it was almost like a whisper, like, oh yeah, how are you handling this? And it's like, no, we should be shouting, here's how I'm handling it. Here's my challenges. Here's the issues. Here's what's going well. And so I really wanted the podcast. I created the podcast then to kind of start sharing stories on top of the resource and informations that I provide on the blog. And I've always loved working with women. I actually used to I owned a gym. This is like a complete former life because now that I'm an executive at a Fortune 500. But at one point in life, I owned a gym, and that was a gym geared towards women and supporting women. I come from a lot of strong women. My mom was a single mom raising us. My aunts, a few of them are single moms as well, and the ones who aren't, still super strong women. My grandma was the first, she was councilwoman in our small town in Pennsylvania, which is, we moved from Texas to Pennsylvania when my parents divorced to Pittsburgh. She was the first councilwoman, or not the first, she was a councilwoman, but she was also the first security guard at the Still Mill. Like, if that gives you any type of insight into what kind of woman my grandma is. Like, I just come from a lot of really strong women, and I've always felt the need to like pay it back to other women, especially those who are trying to find their strength. And so that's where the gym came from. Then I, really started focusing on my corporate career, and now the Savvy Working Mom is just coming out of, like, it's almost my passion project. It's how I wind down, is talking to you, talking to other mamas about like, how can we make our lives better?
Yeah, and for some reason, I wish you started this podcast like 4 years ago when I had my daughter, because I was still in corporate America at the time, and I get it. Like, I had a boss. I would go downstairs to go to the pumping room, and he was like, well, you need to be back upstairs in 20 minutes. And I'm like, I'm going to be back upstairs when I come back upstairs, right? Because they just didn't get it. And I didn't have anybody that I could share like these stories with. I'm like, it's not a lot of people there who did that kind of stuff. So I wish I had your podcast like 4 years ago. So I'm glad that you're doing it now. Awesome. So you wrote something on your intake form, because when you were in your aspiring phase, you said the thing that got you out of it was a passing comment from a senior leader. So I wanted to hear a little bit about that story.
Yeah. So when I was at the company that I'm at right now, I actually left that company and then I came back. And I started there as a manager, and now I'm a VP. When I was a manager, I came in and I had this idea, like I was a year or two, no, actually at that point, I think it was like 3 years out of grad school, getting an MBA. And I had this idea that I had to be extra buttoned up. And, being a Black woman in corporate, we do show up and have to work twice as hard a lot of the time, right? It's just the way that it is. And it's not okay, but it is what it is, right? And dealing with that and knowing that I wanted to grow a corporate career, I'm the one that is showing up early, working till late, presenting myself extremely buttoned up. My hair is natural. I have natural hair. I've had natural hair since grad school. I would wear it kind of more tucked back.
Right.
Now I just go full throat. I don't care. I'm like, I'm doing what I'm going to do. But I had this image of what it meant to be corporate, and it was extremely buttoned up. And this this guy at the time, he was a director a few levels he's a VP. Sorry, he was the VP at the time. He said to me, just passing, like, I think you're doing really great here. Really excited that you're on the team. I had just like really kicked some ass. Like, I had launched this product that everyone was extremely excited about. And so he took the time to share with me. He thinks I'm doing great. I think you're doing really well here. He's like, my only concern is just, you're like really buttoned up.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know if that, and then he just kind of said it and then went on to like more of the review. And then he actually gave me some constructive criticism. Like, the really buttoned up part wasn't the constructive criticism, but it really said to me, like, I don't have to be how other people think I should be. I just have to be me. And because I was coming off of this, I would say, this high of having launched this product. Yeah. I was like, all right, I have a little bit of street cred now at this company. They know what I can do. They've seen it. This is the opportunity to maybe let go of some of, not necessarily what was fake, but like, that code switch, right? Like, let go of some of this, me being who I think they want me to be, more so than me, just being Whitney. And for me, that was where I really made a choice, because I think it's by chance. And why I say it's chance is really, I took what I heard and what I saw society telling me I should do, and I followed that. And if by chance I saw something where, a woman's hair looks like this, and I'm like, let me fix that up. And if by chance I saw that you should be walking around always holding a folder and like look super busy, then I was like, let me go ahead and follow that. I really wasn't making definite choices based on me and my intuition and based on me and who I am. It was more kind of taking from the outside and just following whatever kind of recommendations came to me by chance. Because also, I come from a lot of strong women, but I don't come from women who work in corporate, right? So I didn't have that family background. I don't really have people to go to ask to help me figure out how to make it work at work. And so I was like, I'm going to make a choice in this moment to just be Whitney and see where that takes me. And I tell you, from that day, like, I left the company because I was extremely ambitious and I got an offer from a consulting firm that I just couldn't refuse. They called me back. They're like, no, girl, don't go. Come back, come back, come back. So I left, and then I came back as a director, and the director then got promoted to a VP. And, you know, now I'm like doing the damn thing as myself, which is really amazing, right? But it's also a choice that I've made.
And I love that you say you're doing it as yourself and you're not showing up as anybody else. So, and if anybody's in that space where you think they are ready to just go up the corporate ladder, but they don't feel like they can be themselves, or there are not a lot of people in their office space that looks like them or would give them like the critique that your boss gave you or the review, like what would you say to those people?
I would say, one, take a look around the company and see who is on the track of moving up and forward, and see what it is that they're doing. Like, what do they have going on? And those are the things that you want to emulate in your own style, right? So, for example, one of the things that I found really helpful is to get comfortable, to get to know the SMEs, like the subject matter experts in your company. Get to know them, because they are a wealth of knowledge, and they're going to know things and provide perspective that you don't necessarily have. But you don't have to do that in a specific way, right? You don't have to set a meeting with them, or you don't have to go to lunch. Like, I'm not a go to lunch kind of girl. That's just not what doesn't work for me. But I can do it in my own way, which is like, let me pop by your office and bring you a coffee or bring you a little snack, and like, let's chat it up for a moment or two, because that's what works for me. And then take it from there, right? I don't do the lunch thing. It's just not for me, especially the last couple of years, because I've been pumping nonstop. I breastfed my son, the first one, until he was 2. Now I'm doing this one. So it's like, I don't have a lot of lunchtime.
Right. I get it.
To like go by and like do the coffee. I think, you know, another thing is when it comes to presenting, you should present. You have to be polished. Like, I'm not saying don't be polished, but practice, be prepared, be polished, but present in your own way, right? Put your own spin on it. Make it interesting. If you work in like a traditional corporate setting, then executives, they want PowerPoints because they want the ideas packaged up, because we want to be able to go through it quickly and understand what's going on. But feel free to add like your own little flavor in there of whatever it is. Like, for me, I really like music. So if we have the time, depending, and you got to fill out what the meeting is, but a lot of times, like, I'll have the PowerPoint pop up and then have a song come on in the background just to kind of set the mood, set the tone. Of what I'm trying to do. Like, I remember one meeting I was going to give, and it was definitely going to be some bad news, and the PowerPoint popped up, and it was the Rolling Stones, "You Can't Always Get What You Want." And then I was like,
oh my God, I love it. I would have wanted to see their face in that meeting.
Everyone was like, and I'm like, yes, this is just setting it up, setting the stage.
I love it.
So, like, you could do little things that, like, whatever feels good to you. I will say, like, you do have to be polished. You do have to have that foundation there. But the other thing is, if you look around the company and you can't find a champion, because I had champions, and you do need to have a champion. One of the things my old boss, when I was at the director level, used to say to me all the time, and it's very true, is that, you know, someone's always making a decision about you when you're not there. You're never there for when they're deciding what your corporate career is going to be like. You need someone more senior than you who is there in the room, who can pound the table for you, who can support you, who can help to move, you know, the pieces around. And that can come about in a lot of different ways. It doesn't have to be a direct, like, mentorship kind of thing. I've actually never had that. Like, I've never walked up to someone and said, "Can you please be my mentor?" I don't even, I would be someone's mentor if they asked me in that way, but it's more like end up working with some senior people somehow and then check in with them on advice. And some people are going to be open to giving you that advice, and some people aren't. And the ones that are open, just continually check in with them and do what you can for them too, right? If you find out that they're really into cocktails, right? Like, send them a cocktail recipe, like, do little things to just, like, whatever it is that you can do for them, do that for them as well, and have that back and forth and that ongoing back and forth. The other thing is, like, do a bang up job, do a really good job at what you're doing, and make sure other people know about it. And then you don't necessarily have to worry about getting a formal mentor. Make sure that people are able to talk about the work that you do, and that they understand it. And that will help you. And if you can't find that at your company, then you might need to look around. Because here's the thing I do think is really real. We tend to get in this place where either we're extremely comfortable in our jobs, or we think our job is the only one out there. And I know that it's scary to jump ship and go someplace else because you don't know what the corporate culture is going to be like. A job search is looking for a job is a part-time job.
Right.
You can be lucky. Like I was blessed that someone had reached out to me about a job and then somebody else reached out to me about a job. But when you actually have to look for a job, it is a part-time job. It takes a lot of time. Having said that, it is worth the time. It is worth pushing through that fear to find that next job. If the place that you're at right now is not a place that is going to let you advance, if it's not a place that is going to offer you the opportunity that you desire, definitely put it in. I think one of the biggest learnings that I had, even though it all worked out for me in the end, was that I didn't really share with folks that I wasn't so happy. I shared it with a few people before I left the first time. And I probably, if I had shared with more people, then I probably would have ended up getting promoted and had some stuff happen, but I didn't. I didn't share with enough people. And like I said, at the end, it all worked out, and I really enjoyed my time at the consulting firm too. So that was cool. It was a really good experience for me, but share it with people. Having said that, you got to leave. Like I left, I did leave because I was like, I looked around and I said, what's next for me? I don't see what's next for me. There's folks over here that are actually calling me, right? So I don't have to go through that step of looking for new stuff. Like an interesting opportunity is calling me. I'm going to go check it out, see what it is. It made sense to capitalize on the opportunity. And then I moved on there. Like I said, I'm back now, and super happy about it. But you got to look around. And if all you're doing is hitting a wall, it's time to go and find the door. And the door might not be at the company that you're at right now.
Yes, I love it.
Your life. This is the one thing I want to say. This is your life, right? Most of us spend more time working of our waking hours, more time working than we do doing anything else. So if you don't enjoy what you do, if you are frustrated with where you're at and you don't see a path forward, like this is your life. This is not just work. This whole work-life balance thing always frustrates me because it's not work-life balance. It's like work-life integration. It's like all this stuff is like, it's all part of you, and you're spending more time at work, most of us, than we are doing anything else. So if you don't like it, if you don't love it, then there is something out there for you that you can like, at the very least, like, if not love. You just have to actually take the chance to find it.
Right. I love it. So how can we get more Whitney? Because there's so much gems already packed in this episode, and I don't want to keep you because I know you got babies. So how can we get more Whitney?
Yeah, thank you. I know, and I tend to rant. Like, I'm like, I got all these things I want to share. Let me just get it all out. I get it all out on my blog, The Savvy Working Mom, and on my podcast. Check out the Savvy Working Mom podcast, because that is where I am sharing these gems, and I share them quickly, right? I actually keep it succinct. If I have an interview with another mama who's sharing her story, it's always going to be less than 30 minutes. And if it's me giving advice, it's always going to be less than 15 minutes. So if you listen to it at like speed and a half, you can get through it in 7 or so. Because I know that we're all busy.
And you also have a course that they can join. So tell us about the course.
Yes, I just launched a course called Mama's Morning Makeover. And it's really about setting up your day from the start to be successful. Because I really think, if you upgrade your morning, you're going to upgrade your life. Mm-hmm. How your day starts is truly has such a great impact on how your day will end. And day after day after day, if your day is starting in total chaos and you're just putting out fires, then day after day after day, that builds your life. You don't want to build a life on putting out fires. You want to build a life on having some control and doing the things that you want. And yes, and that, all of that. And so it's called Mama's Morning Makeover. It is based on a system I call Grace and Joy. Each one of those letters stands for an action that you take. The best news and the great news about it is that you don't have to wake up earlier. Okay. You just have to get it done in the first 60 to 90 minutes, right? And you can do it I have a sample schedule where you can get it done. You can get Grace and Joy done in 7 minutes. You can do 15 minutes. If you got more than 20 minutes, like amen and hallelujah and like God bless you, and you go ahead and you spend more time. And I tell you the best ways to use that time. But in little as 7 minutes, broken up throughout the first 60 to 90 minutes of your day, you can set your day up for success. And like, who doesn't want more grace and joy?
Right. I know I need some. So for this season, all the guests are providing the podcast, and you shared your quote. I mean, the quote for the podcast, and you shared your quote, which I love, which is, "You have brains in your head and feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself in any direction you choose," by Dr. Seuss. So tell us why you chose that quote.
I love that quote. Like, I have a Dr. Seuss tattoo.
Oh, that's Dr. Seuss. Oh,
Yeah,
that's so cool.
it's from the book, Oh, the Places You'll Go. And I
Mm-hmm.
really, that book, Oh, the Places You'll Go, I think there's a reason why it's like one of the number one graduation gifts, but it speaks to so many different times in our life. One, it's fun, it's cute, it's got lots of color in it. I like that. But I think that message is so real, which is, it reminds me when I read it that I always have choice. I do. I have brains in my head and I have feet in my shoes. Like, I'm a smart cookie, and I can pick myself up and go and figure out what it is I want to figure out and do the things that I want to do, but I have to make the choice. So that, I think, is extremely powerful. And sometimes I forget it, but then I got this tattoo actually to help remind me, right, that I can do the things that I want to do. It's really about me making the choice, though, and then taking the action.
And you know, it's so funny. You're the second person I've interviewed who has the quote actually tattooed on them.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, so I just have the image. I don't have the words on, because that's a lot of words.
Oh, yeah, she did the actual words. And I'm like, I'm like, okay. I couldn't sit there for that long.
Oh, I mean, I have a thigh piece that's like 14 hours of work. So,
oh my gosh.
That's like, yeah, that was multiple sessions. I can't sit for longer than 6 hours.
I'm about to say, because I would be crying.
Yeah, no, your body just gives up. I mean, really, probably 4. As I get older, I have my tolerance has gone down.
All right, so thank you for coming on the podcast today. Thank you for sharing all these gems. You guys, make sure you go out and check out the podcast of The Savvy Working Mom, because I'm pretty sure there is a lot more that she has shared over there and on her blog. So make sure you guys check it out, and you come back and listen to a next episode of the Drop the Aspiring Act podcast. You have been listening to another episode of Drop the Aspiring Act. If you're looking for more information on this podcast and other episodes, please visit queenbaegoals.com. That's QueenBaegoals.com. All right, y'all. I'll see you in the next podcast.